I'd like to welcome everyone today to a very special, this is the graduate family housing edition of Don't Get Chopped. We call this the graduate student edition because we do an undergrad edition as well. These are the common offenses that we run into in Gainesville and at the University of Florida. So we think it's important to emphasize, we really want to keep all of our students, including our grad students, out of trouble. And that's why we're doing it today. A quick shout out today to Jason and Hanane for allowing us to do the presentation. This has been a wonderful collaboration and we really do appreciate it. We anticipate doing this every third Tuesday of the month. So if you have any topics that you'd like to see covered, please let us know about it and we will be happy to do them for you. That being the case, let's get started on this. Again, Don't Get Chopped, grad student edition. And a quick disclaimer, we provide this as an educational tool and it's not intended to provide specific legal advice as every situation is unique. Obviously, if you have a legal question or concern, feel free, you can drop it in chat along the way, or if you want to keep it private afterwards, we can do a separate breakout room. If legal help is needed, just contact our office and we are happy to help advise you. We do it for thousands of students every year. And the information contained is that of UF Student Legal Services only and not necessarily reflective of the official policy or position of UF Board of Trustees, Board of Governors for the State University System of Florida or the state of Florida. And real quick, we've done our best job here trying to research. This is a best practices guide based on input from other attorneys, obviously our office and students, the student cases that we've been doing. Some of it may be emotionally and or intellectually challenging to engage with. We think we presented all the information in a legally neutral, nonpartisan, non-controversial format. If you find it upsetting in any way, certainly you are allowed to leave the workshop and or not participate. If you do decide to participate, again, I would ask you to hold your comments and questions until afterwards. And just to also, we ask you to create an atmosphere of mutual respect and sensitivity as we ask for all things at University of Florida. We are nonpartisan and non-political, non-discriminatory, and we want you to know that your voices are welcomed and heard. What do we do here at Student Legal Services? Quite a bit of things, everything from a simple traffic ticket, which we'll talk about, to if you have a leasing issue off campus, of course, criminal charges, traffic tickets, expungement, sealing of criminal records, all kinds of consumer matters, including if you have debt or if you have credit reports, we need to clean those up, ID theft, damage to your property or vehicles, if you have automobile medical insurance claims, and if nothing else, you have free notaries over here. So please make sure that you use it. And also, I know Alicia wants me to stress this, we have many student involvement opportunities. So please take a look at our website. And if you know anybody that's interested in the field of law, getting involved, please pass this on. Okay, without further ado, let's start the first one. This is graduate edition. So instead of talking about under the age of 21 possessing alcohol, we're talking about you giving it to minors. You know that if someone's under the age of 21, it's a criminal offense in Florida to give them alcohol. And it's called contributing to the delinquency of a minor, alcohol or drugs. The charge looks terrible for background checks. It can affect your credit. It can affect your employment. So make sure that you're not providing alcohol to anyone that is underage. And certainly if you have to, check an ID. Open house parties. Okay, this is usually encountered with our students living off campus where they throw a party. Okay, what do we mean by an open house party? Well, we mean that it's open to not just the tenants, but others as well to go inside and to attend the party. If you allow underage drinkers to drink at your party, you can be charged. Now, it's a misdemeanor, but remember that any tenant that's on the lease that's present can be charged. And so again, you need to take reasonable steps to prevent that underage drinking by, for example, checking IDs. Okay, common cases that we encounter: marijuana and drug paraphernalia. What is drug paraphernalia? Those are the items that are used to ingest, smoke, otherwise try to consume the drugs. The common cases that we encounter are students that go in a vehicle, The residences, like our students that are living in the various housing complexes on campus, or the woods on campus. And sometimes our students are under the misconception that they won't be charged on campus. Not true. It's illegal in the entire state of Florida. So you need to be aware of that. And also that the odor of marijuana is probable cause by itself to search either your residence or your car or wherever you're at to find the drugs. Be very careful because loss of your financial aid and driver's license can occur upon conviction of any possession charge. And that's under federal law. So you've got to be aware that medical marijuana, while it may apply under state law, may not apply under federal law. Questions, concerns, contact us. And other controlled substances, well, it's a third-degree felony, up to 5 years in prison, okay? Let's talk about what we encounter. Cocaine, MDMA, well, otherwise known as ecstasy, and Adderall. These are three of the more common ones that we've encountered on campus. Now, it's a third-degree felony if you have any of these in your possession. You can be sentenced up to 5 years in prison. Sale, giving it to a friend or a colleague or someone else, that's a second-degree felony, up to 15 years in prison. Now, if you sell or give it on or near a school, church, daycare, that can be a first-degree felony. You can get up to 30 years in prison. Also, you need to be aware that there's a 3-year minimum mandatory upon conviction in those cases. So pretty severe sanctions, so be aware of that. Okay, DUIs, let's talk about them. There's two ways they can charge you: objectively with a breath test, and I think most people know this. If you're over 0.08, okay, on a breathalyzer machine, that can net you a 6-month driver's license suspension. Or the field sobriety test, for example, the finger to nose, the walk and turn, the standing on one leg, okay? If you fail those as well, you can be charged. So there may be other substances in your system, or you may be impaired with a lower amount below 0.08. Now, if you're underage, under the age of 21, it's 0.02. So basically it's zero tolerance, okay? So if you refuse now, it's a 1-year driver's license suspension as opposed to the 6-month. And upon conviction, there can be an additional 6-month suspension on top of that. Now, you have to remember that if you're sitting in your car with the keys in the ignition, or if the car is on, the keys being close by, you can still be charged because you're in actual physical control. Takeaway on this is that a DUI is very expensive. It can cost you about $10,000 in total and can never be expunged for background check purposes. Please avoid drinking and driving. There are so many alternatives now: Lyft, Uber, later Gator, the Snap, the various buses. And again, if you have friends that are sober, to take you home. Open container. Okay, the commission recently changed the law slightly upon City of Gainesville property. However, you still need to be aware that open container is generally a civil infraction in Gainesville. However, it can become criminal if you are aggressive or hostile, meaning that if you have either a glass of alcohol or you're walking around with a bottle or can in your hand that contains alcohol, you can still be charged criminally if you're aggressive or hostile with the police, if you attempt to conceal it or pour it out in front of them after they ask you what's in it, if you refuse to sign the civil citation, or if you have a prior open container civil infraction in Gainesville within the preceding year, or a related criminal offense. You need to be aware of the party patrol. Gainesville Police Department in particular patrols the bars and clubs in Midtown and downtown, the neighborhoods around campus and apartment complexes, looking for alcohol and other criminal violations. Now, I say this, and most of the attendees today are graduate family housing residents, but be aware that there's also University Police Department that are checking on you as well to make sure that everything is okay. Game day on campus Some of our students have a misconception. We talk about common myths. They think that game day on campus, anything goes, and that the laws will not be enforced. Not true. The laws, especially alcohol related, are still enforced on campus during game days, particularly in regard to underage drinkers or giving underage drinkers alcohol. Stadium violations. Now, if you get in trouble inside the stadium and you're cited or you're removed from the stadium during a game, you've got to remember that both criminal and non-criminal offenses, meaning if you're disruptive, can result in the loss of your football tickets and up to the season. So you may not be able to pick up your tickets until you meet with student conduct and conflict resolution. Takeaway, please tell everyone that you're going to the game with, don't be disruptive at the stadium. Theft. The charges are based on the value of items. If it's above $750, it is a felony in the state of Florida. Now, this was changed a few years ago. It was $300. It was changed to $750, I guess to keep pace with inflation. A misdemeanor under $750, a felony above $750. The takeaway is still, please don't do it. You can also face civil theft charges, and those can be expensive. And you need to be aware of this, something that we emphasize here. For example, if you were charged with shoplifting, theft at the mall, you're usually trespassed for 1 year from the property, and that includes the parking lot as well. And that's a crime. That's a criminal action if you go back to that property. So let's talk about that trespassing again. A store, bar, nightclub can all require you to leave. If the manager of the store, someone in the store, the bouncer at a bar asks you, or club asks you to leave, do it. Okay, you can certainly write a letter the next day to complain, but the issue is that you can be charged, okay, criminally if you fail to leave or you go back. So if they ask you to leave, just walk away nicely, and you can always come see us. Gainesville noise violations. Be aware that in the city of Gainesville, if you can hear your music or stereo or the party 200 feet or more from wherever you're at, that is a noise violation and you will be cited. Now, it's civil, not criminal. This is one of the rare instances where the first offense, the police will show up and you will get a warning with no fine. However, be aware in the second offense, if it's within 365 days, even on the same night, it's a $250 citation, and the fine increases each time the police are called back. And so this can actually stay with you for a year, okay? So be aware and be very careful on that. So takeaway, if the officers show up and issue a warning, tone down the party. Resisting arrest without violence. This happens sometimes where our students, a friend, maybe the officers are questioning their friend and they try to intervene. You can't do that. While the police are officially investigating, you're not allowed to interfere with their duties. So be very careful on that, because you can be charged with the interfering with the police. It's actually called resisting arrest without violence. Leaving the scene of an accident. If you hit a car, for example, in the parking lot, you must leave your contact information, including all of your, not just your email, but you should leave your contact information, including your phone number and your address, okay, and registration number of your vehicle. You're also supposed to go to the nearest law enforcement, which if it happened on campus, you're supposed to go to University Police Department and just report it, that it happened as well. If failure to do so is a criminal offense. Okay, if you get pulled over, what do? If you're stopped in your car, we recommend that you pull over in a safe place as soon as possible. When we talk to police about it, I always ask, and they say, please tell your students to pull over wherever it's safe as quickly as possible. If they have their lights and siren on, you're supposed to pull to the right of the road anyway. So if you're asked, Show the police your driver's license, registration, and insurance info. And you can refuse to consent to a search, but again, if they smell the odor of marijuana or they have probable cause of a crime, your car can be searched without consent. And you do have the right to remain silent, both the drivers and passengers. You can always ask them if you're free to leave. Remember that when you pull over, turn off the car, turn on the internal light, open the window, place your hands on the wheel. You could unroll the window and ask the police officer if they prefer that you step out or remain in the car. What do you do on a traffic ticket? Okay, it seems like a lot of our residents and a lot of students receive traffic tickets. Speeding, running a stop sign, not stopping on a red light when you take a right-hand turn. If you do receive a ticket, don't argue with the police. And if the officer requests you to sign the ticket, you have to do so. A lot of times these days, they don't have to make you sign it because they have a machine that prints off the ticket and they have a copy of it as well. But if they do ask you to sign it, remember, you're not admitting guilt. You're just saying that you received a ticket. The traffic tickets, there's 3 options. You can pay the ticket, and if you do that, you'll get points that can suspend your driver's license and make your insurance increase. You can, number 2, pay the ticket and do traffic school. This will help keep the points off your license. You can only do this a maximum of 5 times in your lifetime or up to 1 time per year. Number 3, you can fight the ticket in court and request a court hearing. Questions on all of these options, come see us. We're happy to help you navigate with a traffic ticket. Let's talk about driver's licenses, particularly for our international students and students out of state. If you do move to Florida permanently, you must get a Florida driver's license. However, if you're a full-time student, you can drive on your state or home country license, but you also need to keep your student ID with you. Now, you have to remember, you've got to be a full-time student, so you may be asked to produce documentation of that. You also need to remember that this is only in the state of Florida. Now, because law enforcement in Alachua County knows that sometimes our international students can drive on their home country license, we don't see nearly as many tickets written for this, but we still recommend that you obtain a Florida driver's license if you're driving here. It makes it so much easier. Your insurance will be cheaper, and a Florida driver's license is pretty easy to get as long as you memorize the rules and take the test, particularly if you have a license in your home country. So we recommend that you obtain a Florida driver's license, particularly if you're driving out of state, because remember that rule only applies in the state of Florida. Student conduct code. Okay, on-campus violations and charges will be forwarded to student conduct and conflict resolution. And you have to remember that there can be a separate matter that proceeds with the University of Florida as well. There can be an administrative hearing to determine whether or not the student violated the student conduct code. This is completely separate of any criminal or civil infraction that you may have committed. And you've got to remember, it has a lesser burden of proof, okay, than criminal court in general. And Jason wanted me to talk about it. And certainly plagiarism is something that can be considered as well. Question concerns, we are not allowed to get involved, obviously, because it's internally to University of Florida, but we certainly encourage you to contact the student conduct and conflict resolution office. And I will try to put a link to that below on the YouTube video. Dating apps and age of consent, very important in Florida that all of our students know this. The age of consent varies by state law, and generally it's 18 years old in Florida. It's a felony crime to solicit a minor for sex in any form or to possess pictures or videos of minors. And this includes using computers or phone apps, okay? We've had students charged in the past, and these are very serious charges because you can get imprisonment up to life, depending on the circumstances. So you cannot date, you cannot engage in solicitation, you cannot look at pictures of videos of minors. You can be designated as a sexual offender or a sexual predator if you're charged, which means You can't have any contact with minors in the future, and you can't reside near a school or places where minors congregate. Remember, I was telling you within 1,000 feet of a school, a church, a daycare, a park where minors are. So actually, you would have very few places to live if you're charged with this. Now, non-US citizens are likely to be deported, not based on whether or not you're found guilty, but just based on the allegations themselves, okay? And that can be after a prison sentence. Stalking, cyber stalking, remember, no means no. If someone tells you that the relationship is over, not to contact them again, you must cease all communications. And that includes direct contact, of course, but also giving gifts, emails, text messages, and nowadays, of course, we see it very often on social media. No means no. So if someone's to ask you to stop contacting them, you must do so. And of course, contact us if you have any questions about it, whether or not you may be a victim on the other side, or you may be an individual that's been told not to contact someone else. Also, remember, it is strictly illegal, okay, to record sexual encounters without the consent of all parties. Let's talk about University of Florida Police Department and their jurisdiction, meaning where are they generally allowed to patrol? Well, they have authority within 1,000 feet of university property. So that extends into Midtown, the other side of 13th Street, as well as south of the university, and of course, can also extend west of the university as well. It includes fraternity and sorority houses, so the other side of the university. And you've got to be aware that UF has property throughout the Gainesville area. So arguably, University Police Department has jurisdiction all over Gainesville at various places. Miranda warning. A lot of our students, they know a little bit about Miranda, but not the details. And I'm going to briefly summarize some of the major points today. Okay, when do the police have to read you that Miranda warning? You know the one. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have the right to talk to a lawyer. If you cannot afford to hire one, one will be appointed. Okay, that's on the card sometimes that they use. A lot of officers have memorized it. When do they have to give you these rights? When you're placed under arrest or you're detained, okay, not free to leave. And you're questioned about a crime. Now, for example, if you're under the age of 21 and they caught you with alcohol in your hand, they may not need to question you because they've caught you. Under those cases, you may not be given a Miranda warning. Now, the key thing is you can always ask the officer, am I free to leave? Okay. Now, if the officer is giving you the Miranda warning, you need to listen to it. You need to remain silent, and you need to understand it, because your rights are you can remain silent. Now, you do usually have to give your name and address, and we'll talk about that in just a second. You may be asked to produce identification as well, but you don't have to talk about the facts of any crime they may be asking you about. You can also speak to or have an attorney present, okay? And you can exercise those rights at any time. Just because they didn't read you Miranda doesn't mean that they don't have a case. Going a little bit deeper, when do you have to identify yourself? Well, in certain states, including Florida, where we're at, you must give your name if you're asked to identify yourself. Now, if law enforcement has a reasonable suspicion that you're involved in a crime or offense, for example, a traffic offense, they can ask for your name and your ID, your identification, including your Florida driver's license, or and on campus, your Gator 1. However, you have the right to remain silent about the facts of the case and to speak to an attorney. Okay, you still have those Miranda rights potentially for you. So officer discretion. Okay, remember, a lot of our students think officers have to give them a warning first. Remember, outside of that noise violation, they usually do not have to give you a warning, okay? If it's criminal, the officer can arrest you and book you into jail if it occurs in their presence, or if it's a felony charge. So we usually recommend cooperating as much as reasonably possible to avoid spending the night in jail and the mug shots. Let's talk about those mugshots. Okay, we got an individual here, celebrity mugshot for sure. You probably know who this individual is, and I can pretty much guarantee you won't look quite as good as he looks in this mugshot here usually. If you're booked into jail, the mugshot and arrest information will show up on the mugshot websites, and it's a difficult and costly process to remove the arrest information. That's why generally we counsel, don't get arrested. Try to cooperate with law enforcement if you can, okay? Permanent criminal records. Once you're charged, a criminal record can appear on your background checks, even if it's dismissed. So let's talk about this. Open house parties. It shows up as contributing to the delinquency of a minor or allowing a minor alcohol, drugs, okay, for that. So it looks very bad. Again, you don't want to have that contributing to the delinquency of a minor, giving a minor alcohol, okay? Possession of marijuana or other illegal substances also show up, okay, on your record. So very important, stay away from the illegal substances. I'll give you an example here. This is a case, misdemeanor, and I've changed the name slightly on it. It's contributing to a delinquency of a minor, alcohol or drugs. Looks terrible, okay, on the record. Now we can see nolle prosequi, null pros, shortened null pros, means that it's been dismissed in Florida, but still it shows up. Okay, now in a case like this, the individual needs to come see us so we can potentially do an expungement, okay, to remove it from background checks. And you also need to be aware that the digital images are now available to the public, so anyone can look up the charges with court access now. And for example, this is a real case, and I've just removed the identifying information in it. Don't worry, it's not a student. I just wanted to keep anonymity here. But here it says occupants of the vehicle were asked to step out of the vehicle. The defendant was the front passenger. So the defendant exited the vehicle, was witnessed throwing down a small plastic baggie and then standing on it. And then the defendant was asked to move and complied, okay? And the defendant also said that the small plastic baggie was his property. It contained a green leafy substance that tested positive as marijuana. Doesn't look good, okay, for a potential employer. So be careful, don't get charged. First of all, we want to be proactive here. If you do, unfortunately, get charged or you have any of this information, come see us so we can help you. Also, one thing I always want to recommend to all my students, don't be a victim. We don't want you to be a scam victim. There are people out there that will take advantage of you. And we've had students lose many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, okay? Be aware particularly of emails for job openings with a click here or apply now link. It may look like it comes from a professor or some other individual that's trustworthy, but that account may be hacked, and that's why. Be aware too that if somebody overpays, if you're subleasing, if you're selling something and they send you a fake bank check or money order and they ask that you wire them back or refund the difference, okay, that's something else we run into. Big red flags out there. Emails from someone you don't know, a request to send them or wire them cash. Urgency, they're really pushing you to do this because they have a sick relative or some other issue. If it's too good to be true, okay, it very likely is. You can contact us. You can contact University Police Department if it's on campus. If it's off campus, Gainesville Police Department or Alachua County Sheriff's Office to help you. Questions, concerns, we'll take that in just a minute. I will knock this off. Just remember that you have free attorneys here for students. We're located in 3500 of the J. Wayne Rights Union, and you can contact us at 352-392-LAWS or 392-5297, or our website, studentlegalservices.ufl.edu, and there's a big button at the top that you can press to apply for our services. That being the case, I want to thank everybody today for attending. And I'll leave this up for just a second. This is workshop feedback. If you want to take a picture of it, whether or not you're attending in person or much more likely on YouTube, please feel free to take a picture of this and you can submit an evaluation of how well we did on this particular workshop. if it was helpful or not. And be aware that I'll put this on YouTube. We will upload this probably within the next couple of days. So if you need a link, you can contact us at Student Legal Services, and we'll be happy to provide it as well. I want to thank everyone for attending today, again, for allowing me to record a clean copy of this for YouTube. And that being the case, I am going to stop recording now.